Welcome to Deleted Saves. On this episode, Star Ocean, the second story, on the PlayStation 1. Science fiction is a very broad genre filled with a diverse set of ideas, philosophical takes on life, society, and politics, thoughts on technology, and humanity's place in a vast and uncaring universe. Yet somehow it gets boiled down to two basic camps in the social consciousness. Quote-unquote hard sci-fi, your iRobots or Star Trek, where the science and deep thought take center stage, or science fantasy, which is anything that looks or even smells faintly of Star Wars. The subject of today's talk, 1999's Star Ocean, the second story, while fairly listed as a science fantasy game due to its overall plot, reminded me more of Star Trek hard sci-fi, just run through the sensibilities of the JRPG formula. I cannot even recall how I came to discover this game, as it is a sequel to a game I'd never heard of. Likely I needed a new game to play, saw this on sale at the local electronics boutique, remember that chain store, folks? At the mall, and it looked like my sort of game. While that surface assessment was correct, the game itself befuddled me in its initial presentation. You were given the choice between two different starting characters at the opening screen, and had I initially picked the female character, the game would have rolled right along into fantasy territory with me none the wiser. But I picked the male character from the start, and that is where the meat of the game can be found. What I thought was a fantasy game was quickly starting off as science fiction. Not what I really wanted, to be honest. And a Star Trek kind of sci-fi. At that, not something I'm personally a fan of. All deep space, science exploration, and ruminating on the fate of quote-unquote lesser undeveloped planets and peoples. The male character, named Claude, was from the sprawling human empire that crossed the innumerable gulfs of stars between worlds, yet keeps their own sort of prime directive, much like the one in Star Trek. Meaning, should you find yourself on a technologically inferior world, don't tell them they aren't alone in the universe, or that there's more going on than their own planet's concerns, until a superior council, with capitalized letters, deems that planet worthy of and ready for such knowledge. Anyway, Claude, the young Gary Stu of our adventure, is a new Galactic Federation officer, royally fucks up his first commission, and as a result, it strands him on the backward planet named Expel. There he meets our female protagonist, who mistakes him for the messiah of her world due to his quote-unquote alien clothing and quote-unquote sword of light, meeting his Federation phaser, again, very Star Trek, due to a prophecy. Soon, Claude finds himself collecting magic-slinging outcasts and sword-wielding lost souls like pound puppies, while on his way to stopping a group of intergalactic bad guys who've taken a very keen interest in the planet Expel to try and exploit a powerful resource only Expel has, all the while trying to explain that he is in fact no hero or higher power, but just an average dude doing average dude stuff, like slaughtering monsters with advanced technology and upheaving world governments with a wink and a smile and superior science. You know, like one does in the average JRPG. And oh yeah, by the way, he's part of a galactic empire. Shh, don't tell anyone. At least in this game, you are mistaken for God, instead of having to kill God. All snark aside, Star Ocean is a mediocre series of sci-fi JRPGs as far as story goes. The real things that helped the game stand out from the pack were thankfully several, for which the time were unique to games in the North American market. First, depending on which of the two starting characters you picked, you would lock out recruiting certain party members down the line, as those non-player characters would only join you because of your party leader. Additionally, who you recruited mattered, as certain party members had rivals in the world that would refuse to join you because you were friends with someone they could not stand. So, if you liked a certain sword saint or brawler over the mage or thief you had recruited, you may just have screwed yourself as a player without knowing it, unless you had played the game through at least once before. Additionally, combat was fast and absolutely chaotic, with a 2D plane cleverly modified to look 3D, where the enemies and your character would race back and forth, practically leveling the countryside, with mystic combat techniques and magic so powerful an atomic bomb would blush in embarrassment. Thankfully, the developers made each character you weren't directly controlling able to be given combat directives, such as concentrating on melee only, healing only, defending, and the like. And you could, on the fly, switch up which party members you were directly controlling, in case one of them got stuck or you needed a certain ability only they could perform. This was not something yet common in this type of role-playing game at the time. Finally, every so often there was a mechanic called private actions, where you could interact with your party members one-on-one and learn more about them, eventually gaining more powers, skills, affinity, and side quests for your main character. This led to a huge possibility of endgame scenes, depending on how much, or little, characters liked each other by the conclusion of the game. Again, not a common mechanic in 1999. It was those smaller touches that helped make Star Ocean, the second story, so much more than it first seemed. Yet I could not shake the feeling, throughout the game, that at any second Patrick Stewart would appear and scold me about the Prime Directive, with how much this commissioned space officer was fucking up his one goal of not letting the proverbial space cat out of the bag. To further rub salt in the wound, I was never able to complete the game, as I got hit with some sort of save file bug that simply crashed the game when it was at the final dungeon, making it unable to be completed. After wiping the file and repurchasing a copy of the game, plus 60+ hours of my life already gone, I was done, man. I can only assume Claude destroyed the space bad guys and went home, having casually ruined the pastoral lives of millions. Star Ocean, the second story, was a fun game overall, but predictable if you've played any other JRPG. And to hell with the Prime Directive, I guess. I'm sure Captain Picard wouldn't have put up with any of Claude's shit. Thank you for listening.